No, I didn't get it. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Ted. This is Dr. Ted. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Many people ask us how we met each other. We don't remember.
That was a long time ago.
It was 20 years ago. We do know that we met in Lansing United Church, that is on Young and Shepherd, but we don't remember how. It's very interesting because I remember how I met every single person and where I met this person. With him, I don't remember. And what can I say about this guy? I didn't know that he's a doctor for a few years. Yeah. He was just my friend. We played with kids together, we talked, and we talked, and we talked a lot, and we walked a lot. And we actually, both of us can shut up and not talk about anything. We just can walk together, and we just can sit together, and each of us will think of our own thought. And I feel that our friendship goes beyond this life, probably, and I know it will continue. And okay, I'm not a sentimental person. I'm not going to continue, okay?
Should I bring napkins?
Yeah, we love working together. We worked together for many years. We ran lectures together. We ran food demos together. We ran retreats together. And each time I get amazed at the way how this gentleman can gather the information, analyze it, use it on himself, on his friends, including me, by the way. Use me as a guinea pig. Thank you for this. I appreciate it. With some stuff I'm stuck for years. So I'm not going to tell about his medical degrees and everything. So what I'm proud of when we teach, the teachings speak by themselves, by the knowledge transfer that we do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your introduction. Long and juicy. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Snezhana, for inviting me for this retreat. I'm very glad to see you all here, and I'm very pleased that people take an interest in these things. A little bit about myself. My main business is to practice and to teach healing through prayer. So there are some people here present who've been to my group, and that's the group where we together study how to pray effectively and how to heal ourselves and others with prayer. I saw that you've been studying the chakra system for the last some time I was here, so I want to tell you that this prayerful technique I'm teaching, which is proceeding from the Christian Science teaching by the famous American prophet and healer, Mrs. Mary Baker Eddy. It does correlate with the chakra in the body as well. These 7 words are 7 synonyms of the name of God Mrs. Eddy discovered. And one day I was looking at them, and all of a sudden it came to me that they do correlate with chakras. So I made this poster and made them the color of the chakras to reflect that. That was 6 or 7 years ago. So there is a deep connection between the spirituality and whatever you learn today. And the more you learn, the more you enable yourself to get healed, and the more you can help yourself and others, right? So the other modality I'm teaching is the homeopathic breathing, which was discovered by the Dr. Konstantin Buteyko in the 1952. Some people calling this technique breathing technique, but that would be incorrect because Dr. Buteyko himself would jokingly call it in the beginning Siberian self-choking. Then after that it got nicknamed homeopathic breathing because instead of breathing more, you're breathing less. And that's the core of this technique. Today our goal is to get like brief introduction, overall understanding of what's going on, overall understanding that at a certain point in medical science something went wrong and significant mistakes were made in assessing and understanding the breathing and how it works. Although all the data were there, for some reason medical science decided not to use that data and went the other way. This mistake led to the widespread of so-called diseases of civilization because, as you know, everybody gets taught in many different ways during the exercise, during visit to medical doctors, during reading different materials on the health issues. Everybody got taught that you need to breathe more, you need to breathe deep in order to get more oxygen. This is a terrible mistake, and I also want right away single out the questions about the yoga techniques or martial art techniques, breathing. They do not include in that presentation, I'm saying. They go differently because they are complex, finished, complete teachings where things are interwoven together. So over there, deep breathing does work properly. But in overall life, when you're practicing just a simple Western-oriented techniques like exercise, aerobic exercise, running, lifting weights, this works opposite way. The deeper you breathe, the less oxygen your cells are getting. And we're going to learn in details how it is, why it is so, and how it is. So about Dr. Buteyko, he was a practicing physician in St. Petersburg, and he saw the same thing I saw as a practicing physician when we go and doing rounds in the wards. We see the same things. We saw the same things. However, he was able to make his conclusion, his discovery, and I wasn't able to. I saw the same things, but I didn't click, right? So what he realized that the worse the condition of the patient in the ward, and we're talking about seriously sick people, right? Not about average people like you here. The deeper breathing these people developing, including up to the, actually not up to, down to the so-called Cheyne-Stokes breathing. This is the medical term by the two doctors who discovered that type of breathing. This is the breathing immediately prequel of death, right? After that breathing, the doctor would assume that you are very close to die. Cheyne-Stokes breathing is the last step of the deep breathing disease, as Mr. Buteyko, Dr. Buteyko, determined that deep breathing, overbreathing, is a disease because it's leading to majority of diseases of civilization, like hypertension, heart diseases, the arteries clogged, liver diseases, kidney diseases, infectional diseases, asthma, all kind of diseases of the breathing system. They all result, not they all, majority of them are a result of this overbreathing, which is taught to people as the good way of get healthy. Unfortunately, as we would learn later on, it is not. So he saw that going around the ward, he saw that the deepness of the breathing correlated with the gravity of their conditions, right? And then at that point he got sick himself. He developed quite a severe case of hypertension. and his blood pressure became very high until some days he would have to take the sick leave, and he wasn't able to work. And these two things culminated in one day when he, in the hospital, in the ward, he went off, took a seat and relaxed deeply and started breathing less, because he saw that sick people breathe a lot. His thought went that if I breathe less, it might help me. That single exercise in the course of 15 minutes led to the dramatic decrease of his pressure. His state normalized, he was able to continue his work that day, and that's the day where discovery was made, that the calm breathing without involving your chest, breathing into the stomach, with the less intake of the air per minute. Every human being has certain liters of air per minute circulating through our breathing system. The medical science telling us that 6 liters per minute, that is the norm. Dr. Buteyko discovered that this is already mild disease stage when you have 6 liters per minute circulating in your system, breathing system. And he discovered that if you can reduce that amount of the air circulating through your breathing system until 4 liters per minute, then your health is significantly improving, your immune system improving, you stop getting colds, and your blood pressure going to normal, and many other things, good things happening, and you becoming healthier. As a matter of fact, I also paid attention to this because in a course of medical studies, doctors study about 4 different biochemistries, 4 different courses of a year of a biochemistry, including classical biochemistry and all kind of different other biochemistries. In one of those courses, we've been introduced to the circles of energy, how the energy in the body is produced, that we can function, right? And everybody know about the sugar circle, when the glucose getting oxidized with oxygen, and that's giving a lot of energy. This is the main kind of thing, and everybody is concentrating on this particular mechanics, chemistry, which is giving us ability to move, to do things, to move quickly, and to get, like, for example, run short distance quickly. You need that. But also, they taught us that there is a second chemical process in the body, a more ancient process, which is giving you less energy, so you cannot run quick run for the short distance on that process. But you can walk on it long miles on that process, which is not involving oxygen at all. We do have in our bodies, we are equipped with the old process of getting energy through the using own urine getting, and maybe you heard, I don't know, please raise your hands, whoever heard that there is in development the urine cells for the cell phone batteries, which can run on the person's urine. You can put your urine in those devices and then you'll produce electricity. Anybody heard about it?
Yep.
Okay. So that's the same technique, that's the same process. From the urine you can get energy. Yes, you cannot get it quick, you cannot get it a lot, but you can. And all these yogis who do not eat for many months and for years, they use that process because when they studied them, they saw that the urine getting from the kidneys into the bladder and then getting through the walls of the bladder, getting sucked back, disappearing, so it's not coming out. So at that point I made, like Oprah used to say, aha moment, so I made a fat check mark in my manuscripts, and okay, that's interesting, that's something very weird, because that's not the kind of average things you learn. And that aha moment stayed with me for about 6 years. I never returned to it until I met Dr. Buteyko, and until I got to the group, and first I got the first level of introductory teaching, with the instructor who was taught by Dr. Buteyko, and after that, later on, he came to our city and got his advanced level, and I took that advanced level. So that knowledge, seemingly useless kind of theoretical knowledge of biochemistry, all of a sudden became very important and very practical, because I realized that not everything as we used to think is exactly how it's happening. There is details, and you know that. There is little things which sometimes change the outcome dramatically. So that was my kind of coming to this understanding. And if you open we all have this access now to a gigantic database, and you open and Google the Buteyko technique, you will see a lot of different opinions, this and that. This is correct, this is incorrect, this is from medical standpoint, is hearsay. And they can say anything they want, but I know what I know. I know that it's improving my health. I know that I got a lot of energy since I practiced this morning, for example. And I learned that on this energy I can run all day without no food and be okay. And whatever they say doesn't appeal to me, because their knowledge is theoretical. None of these people criticizing the system ever practice it. They just learn a bit from the books, from the newspapers, or from some other sources. If somebody will criticize the system after practicing for about a year, then I would understand that. But if somebody criticizing the system because they have medical degrees, I'm not interested in that critique. Thank you very much, but I heard it a lot. I heard a lot of these things. Some of them do have merit, but most of them are just self-proud understanding that we are only one who have the truth. That's not correct. That's not how the things in science works. In science, you put experiment, then learn the results, then publish it, then others do the same experience, experiment, getting the same results, and then we know that that's true. If somebody from your published work getting the same result can duplicate it, then that's true. Okay? But for this, you need to learn yourself. You need to sit there and actually learn how it's done. None of these people want to study that.
You have one person here who was practicing for a year, Buteyko.
Right, okay,
So
good, very good.
I can support the system, guys. It's a good system.
Yeah, you look healthy and energized, right?
I don't practice it no more, but
So-
it helped me when I was practicing. I was very sickly child.
Right.
Was constantly getting whatever flus and respiratory diseases constantly.
Yeah,
and I was
right.
practicing for a year, and I got.
Right. So for today, our purpose is very simple. This simple knowledge that deep breathing, as they teach it in their aerobic exercise, is dangerous and not healthy, is already huge advantage, huge competitive advantage in the quest for health. You will get this knowledge, we will do the practical things, and you will understand that this is true. We will do a couple of introductory exercises, and tomorrow we will do more exercise and study more in detail about all these techniques. But today is just overall kind of overlook. And this overlook includes also the evolutionary look at the things. How the cell, this is not exactly scientific proof, this is hearsay, but this is good for your understanding that the alive cell was created, this is the millions of years back, right? This is 800 millions back, we started. Somewhere 700 millions back, the alive cell actually appeared and start functioning as a live cell. This is a very complex thing, a live cell, and to get it out of the soup of the primordial elements, it's not that simple task, right? Somebody say God created it, somebody say evolution created it. We're not interested in that. What we're interested in the fact that when the live cell was created, this was the level of the oxygen in the atmosphere, and this was the level of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The red is carbon dioxide, the blue is the oxygen. Why was so less oxygen than today? Because if you know that the core of our planet is metal, it's iron. And that iron on the surface was oxidating. And that oxidation would eat away all the oxygen from the atmosphere. Then the surface layer is in million layers, the surface layer of iron get all oxidated, and now we can leave that oxidated ore and produce metal from it, right? And that process stopped. At the same moment, there was a lot of green algae developing in the oceans, and they start producing what? The green cell producing what? Oxygen. So two things correlated. The ore was all oxidated, the metal was all oxidated in the planet, so that process stopped. At the same time, green algae appeared and started producing even more oxygen. And that's what happened. There was a dramatic increase in oxygen and decrease in carbon dioxide. The scientists called this process, this happening, the Great Oxygen Catastrophe. The Great Oxygen Catastrophe. Please remember this word. Why they call it catastrophe? Because at that point where simple animals already existed in the water. There was plants. All these alive forms died out because they were unable to tolerate that quantity of oxygen. Okay? They terminated. This gigantic oxygen catastrophe terminated 70% of the life forms on this earth. And whoever survived was in a need to immediately get used to the higher quantity of oxygen in the atmosphere and protect the cell from that. So how do you protect the cell from the excessive oxygen? Any ideas? Thick wall, right? Thick wall would allow the cell to bump away excessive oxygen. Mucus, right? This mucus which you develop when you're sick, it's developed on a purpose. The cells are protecting themselves from excessive oxygen from your overbreathing. Now my question to you is this. They're telling you oxygen is good, breathe deep, do more exercise with deep breathing, you'll do fine, oxygen is perfect, oxygen is life, right? Why are they selling you antioxidants in the pharmacy and in the natural drugstore? Why on every box of juices that contain antioxidants? Why? If oxygen is so good, why? Why are they selling you drugs to reduce the impact of oxygen?
Acidity.
Not acidity. What's the oxygen does?
Oxidation.
Oxidation. What's oxidation? Active oxidation is what? Burning.
Burning,
Burning,
and
right?
it's actually leading for increase in acidity in tissues.
Yes, it does, but that's not what interesting us at this moment. What interesting us is that oxygen is burning everything.
Yeah.
You have to have certain degree of oxygen, but if you have excessive oxygen, that excessive oxygen ruining everything around. What's the result of burning? Ashes, right? Ashes are free radicals. Free radicals which is destroying everything, including the DNK, they cutting it and ruining it, and then the body need to waste a lot of energy to fix that. So it's not that straightforward. It's appeared that oxygen is not that good guy. Maybe he's a villain at certain point.
It is known actually that oxygen is a toxic agent.
It's
So
toxic,
it is
yeah.
toxic.
Americans learned the hard way because the first spaceships were filled with pure oxygen. Okay? They launched them on the orbit with pure oxygen. Besides the fire they have, there was another effect. They noticed the doctors who would examine the astronauts coming back from the traveling, they noticed that they're getting aged very fast. Their health is depleting. And first they thought that this is the result of the space rays damaging their cells. But then they realized that oxygen is damaging their cells, and the pure oxygen atmosphere, the person is getting aged very fast. Much faster than a normal atmosphere. The other thing which has happened to me personally, when I came to the emergency medicine, it was on the stage of changing dramatically because new remedies were created and new techniques. And so we still had some old people who would practice kind of older techniques, and we have new people coming and they collided. And the older doctors told me that we used to have in the containers, we used to have the oxygen mixed with carbon dioxide for the patients. And that mixture was producing much better results in the emergencies. Then now they start shipping us the pure oxygen, and we see that the results are decreasing and it's less beneficial for the patients, the pure oxygen. So, whoa, this is not nonsense, because they taught us right there in medical school that oxygen is good. Not that simple, my friend, not that simple. You have to dig in. You have to dig in and understand. So I did. So the traditional medical science, Western medical science, learned about this effect as far back as 1903. This is called the Bohr effect. The doctor in Denmark, Dr. Christian Bohr, discovered that increased presence of the carbon dioxide in the blood and the decreased acidity results in the reduction of the affinity of the hemoglobin for the oxygen. What's affinity? Affinity is the ability of hemoglobin to hold the oxygen. Okay? Hemoglobin, if you take a look at the structure of the molecule, it's like a little crab, which is grabbing the oxygen and then closing this claws and holding it together. So this lock, which is closing the crab thing holding oxygen, is actually opened by the presence of carbon dioxide. If there is less than normal carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, the oxygen is not getting released. It's bypassing the tissues. It's going through tissues back into the lungs. There's a lot of oxygen in the blood, no problem. There's a lot of oxygen in the blood, lots, but it's not used because it's not released. To release it, you need carbon dioxide. The problem is that oxygen is present in the blood in two different ways. Direct dilution as a solution, right? Every gas can be diluted in the liquid, right? And the second technique is the molecules of the hemoglobin in the erythrocytes, which is holding it, right? So that second technique is allowed for 90% probably of the oxygen delivery. The first technique is not enough for us to walk or to function normally. On the other hand, the carbon dioxide do not have that second technique. Carbon dioxide is just directly diluted in the bloodstream, and it's very fluid. And when you start over breathing, it's getting evaporated from the bloodstream immediately, right away. And then what happened? In this situation happening, which we have all over around us, we have all the disease of civilization. People breathe deep and they're very sick.
Because the CO2 is actually releasing, and there is balance.
CO2, carbon dioxide is that key which is opening and releasing the oxygen into the tissue. If there is no presence of enough of carbon dioxide, it's not getting released. It's getting bypassed and getting back into the lungs.
Right, so balance.
If you measure oxygen in the blood, as they do, you will get a good result. There's lots of oxygen in the blood.
Right.
You have to measure the oxygen in a tissue, and it's a very hard technique. There is not enough equipment which quickly can do that unobtrusively. So Dr. Buteyko got his discovery and started spraying it around, and it was so scandalous and so opposite to whatever was taught in the traditional medicine that he got suppressed. The traditional medical establishment didn't like him because he was teaching the wrong thing in their understanding, right? So they honorably exiled him to Siberia. By honorably, I'm saying that they shipped him there to silence him, but they give him a lot of funding. They give him money, and in the Novosibirsk, city of Novosibirsk, on this money, government money, he was able to establish a pretty good lab where they created equipment to measure oxygen in the tissues and to measure carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. And that equipment, which cost a lot of money and cannot be like carried in your pocket, it's a big machine which is You need to connect the patient to that machine. That equipment showed them clearly that the more carbon dioxide in the blood, the more oxygen in the tissue. The problem is still current right now. The oxygen they're measuring is oxygen in the blood. To measure oxygen in the tissue, you need investment of money and the size of the equipment. So when they sell it, when next time the doctor will tell you that you have this and that oxygen, please know that that's oxygen in the blood. It doesn't mean that it's automatically will transfer to the oxygen in the tissue.
And actually, the oxygen deprivation in the tissue is one of the main causes of the diseases, actually cancer and everything. And that makes total sense.
Right. So, Dr. Buteyko insisted that at this point of the lecture, everyone had to perform the deep breathing test, that people would understand that this is real, this is not a joke, this is not some alternative science of some alien bodies or whatever. It's a real thing. So what we do now, we'll do the test. We'll breathe deeply for about half a minute, all of us, and we will see what would happen. We'll then analyze the results of that, okay? If any one of you have any heart problems, any serious diseases, any pacemakers installed, any operations of the heart previously, any other known diseases which requires daily intake of medication, please do not do this exercise.
I have a lot of food.
I never mentioned food. You're not sick, you're not taking any medication on a daily
It's
basis?
still okay if I'm going to
Me too, like hard to breathe.
I'm still fine to go with it,
Okay,
right?
so if you're more or less healthy, you can do the exercise. So let's do this exercise. We'll do the exercise. It is exactly opposite to what this technique is teaching, but it's done on purpose, and Dr. Buteyko insisted it, that every group of people who taught this technique must do this exercise. I reviewed many courses offered in North America by people who actually, some of them being taught by Dr. Buteyko, and they do not do this test properly. They just give people a couple seconds and then they let them off. Let's do it properly, as Dr. Buteyko established. Half a minute, 30 seconds, okay? 30 seconds of deep breathing. Let's go. Open mouth. Again, I have to stop. 27 seconds. Okay, stop. Okay. What did you experience from this side?
Dizziness.
Lightheadedness.
From this side, opposite both.
Tingling and a little bit of
Tingling, right? Dizziness.
Yeah.
Lightheadedness.
Lightheadedness.
Dizziness.
Dizziness. Dizziness.
Dizziness and burning here.
Burning here. Dryness.
Dizziness.
Dizziness.
I don't experience now. It's
Okay.
fine. Dizziness and
Okay. So this is the symptoms of overbreathing.
Hyperventilation.
Hyperventilation, overbreathing, right? Hyperventilation, I just, as a doctor who do not practice medicine, I have to teach you this very simple thing. The doctors using Latin language to describe your condition. And when you come in, they're saying something very smartly sounding. Use, for example, coming and saying, I have pain in my butt. And they saying that this is iatrus, something, whatever. But what they just said, they just translated what you said into that Latin, and it sounds very scientific now, but they didn't say anything. They said the same thing you said to them. Okay, so that's a hyperventilation, which is overbreathing, right?
Yeah.
So respectful to himself, doctor would never use normal language because that would sound too simple. And you would understand what he would say. Okay, dizziness, numbness, tingling on the hands, lips and feet, lightheadedness, headache, chest pain in some. I have to stop because I had shortage of breathing and kind of uncomfortable feeling. In a deeper test, slurred speech, fainting. lose of consciousness. If you continue, you would lose consciousness. This is the signs of the stroke according to Canadian Heart and Stroke Foundation. Weakness, confusion, trouble speaking, vision problem, headache, dizziness. Do you see the correlation between these things? Why? Because that's how brain is getting ready to protect itself. Because of the shortage of the oxygen, brain, to protect itself, ready itself to shut down, to call it blackout. Blackout when the intake of oxygen dramatically less, so the brain would not die. So what you experience is the first signs of the brain getting ready to shut down because of the lack of oxygen. And you were deeply breathing, right? Do you understand the meaning of this test now? Mm-hmm. Deep breathing leading to the lack of oxygen, not to the surplus of oxygen. Because of the Bohr effect. Okay? So also, let's talk a little bit about the stress, right? The stress is ruling our lives. We're all stressed. There is a lot of things coming on us. As they said, life coming at you quick. And every day we must process a lot of things and deal with them, make decisions, and sometimes it's very stressful. So, what's the stress breathing? When you're stressed, how you breathe when you're stressed?
Fast and shallow.
Fast, you breathe with your chest, the chest breathing. When somebody is saying, if I give you money now and pointing gun at you, you breathe like a don't kill me, right? Okay, that's the stress breathing. Rapid, chest visibly moves. You can hear the breathing. It's noisy, right? As we just did it, we heard, everyone heard the breathing of the neighbor because it's noisy, right? And facial expression when you're over breathing is tense. Your face is tense because you're working hard, right? And the opposite, on the contrary, the relaxed breathing is slow. It's a belly breathing. It's going slowly like a little tiny stream, but it's go all the way down here. And it's quiet. There is no sound. It's a urban legend, but I believe it is true. On one of the meetings, Dr. Buteyko described to me how he met his second wife. When he was called to her bedside, she was dying from cancer. She was morbidly overweighted, and the doctor said that she had left about 2 to 3 months. She was so deep into the disease that she wasn't able to understand the simple words, the simple instructions. And they called him to help her. So what he did, he called her son and told her son, you have to teach your mother to breathe as little as possible, like a mouse which is hiding from the cat. And the kid understood that. It's understandable. Mouse hiding from the cat, trying to get quiet, right? Not to produce any noise or movement, right? Okay, so he left.